Hey, what's going on guys, it's me Parth, and this is the Snap 4 from InFocus, a brand that you may or may not have heard of. But this is their latest entry into the budget smartphone category, and this sells for roughly around 12k, which means it's directly competing with some of the already well established players in the market. So it really needs something to stand out, but does it have it? Okay, so I've been using this for about a week now, and I figured I should tell you 5 key things that you should be knowing if you are looking to go ahead with this one. So to kick off, let's talk about the design first, because I personally think that the design is its strongest asset. I mean, just look at it. It's a really neat design, not a lot going on, so it's really simple and still attractive. It's a full metal construction, so no plastic plates fortunately, and since you'll just be touching metal, it feels really premium. Oh, and it's also got one of the best looking chamfered edges of many smartphones, which is something I really care about. Also, the off-screen capacitive touch buttons are not like the regular ones, at least not the home button. So the back and multitask buttons are just dots, and the home button is just a circle. What do you think about this? I personally tend to like this for its simple aesthetic, and maybe because also you don't really get to see this that often, but maybe that's just me. But moving on, there are also some flaws in the design which may be subjective, like I prefer the headphone jack on the bottom, over here it's on the top. Oh, and the buttons are just not tactile, which for me, as you know, is just too sad. But that's about it. These are the only areas where I find this to be lacking in. Otherwise, it's just a really great looking phone overall. Secondly, the camera. So technically, this has 4 cameras, and that's how it gets its name, Snap 4. So a 13 megapixel and an 8 megapixel sensor on the rear, and 2 8 megapixel sensors on the front. So actually, it's got dual camera setups, if you make sense about that. And here's the thing, in both the setups, one lens is a normal one with a regular field of view, whereas the other one is a wide angle lens instead of being the highly popular telephoto lens. And it's pretty wide, it's about 120 degrees, so the transition is pretty high. You go from this to this, although it's not a great quality, and you can also be the judge yourself. Plus you also experience choppiness in the viewfinder when you have even the slightest of movements. But I would say wide angle is kind of fun. It actually makes the camera app like a game which you are addicted to, since you want to view everything in wide angle, but definitely with some glitches. Oh, and the front camera also has a depth or portrait mode, which for some reason is lacking in the rear camera. And as far as the quality is concerned, it is below expectations. Not the best implementation of the features, but hopefully they fix it with a software update. Third, the actual specifications inside. So it ships with the 1.5 GHz MediaTek processor, which is an octa-core processor along with 4 GB of RAM and 64 GB of internal storage, which is pretty nice. And you can also expand that with a micro SD card slot, which again is really convenient. But as far as the actual performance is concerned, it's actually pretty nice. It can carry out daily tasks without any issues like it should, and 4 GB of RAM really come in handy during multitasking, so I always have a lot of apps open at the background, and it doesn't let it be a glitch in the performance at all. I also did some slight gaming on this, and thankfully I was able to carry out the process without any difficulties with ease. But of course, if you push the device and fire up some really heavy apps and games, you will be disappointed, because that is definitely something this is not aimed for. Also, MediaTek processors are often looked at with scrutiny just because of their power efficiency and thermal related problems, and this did get warm when I used a lot of cellular data or when I played a lot, but that was above than the ordinary consumption, mainly to put the Snap 4 through its paces. So most of the times you won't encounter such problems, which again is pretty convenient. But now coming to the fourth point, the battery inside. So this has a 3000 mAh battery, which may seem less considering the competition, but it's actually not that bad. I guess it's the not so crisp 720p display up front that helps the battery survive the time that it does, since it doesn't really have to push that many pixels. I mean, to give you some context, if you use your device very heavily, you would have to plug this in the middle of the day, but if you happen to use your device lightly, this would die by the end of the day. To give you some numbers, I mean, I've got about 3 to 4 hours of screen on time at max and just an average standby time. But it does not take a lot of time to charge completely, slightly over 2 hours. So I would say it's just decent. But now coming to the fifth and the last but not the least point, the operating system itself. So this runs on Android Nougat, which is 7.0 in its case at least, and it does come up with the skin on top of stock Android, but I don't think that will be an issue for most of you since it's not a very heavy skin. I mean, a lot of apps are just the native Google apps and have been left unaltered, like the dialer app, the settings app, the calculator, etc. The most noticeable changes are actually made in the home screen, where there is no app drawer and it's kind of like MIUI or iOS. The notification panel is also really flat and the multitasking window takes up only 1/4 of the screen space, and that's pretty much the most visible amendments made. I sometimes do get bored of the layout, so I ended up installing Google Launcher on my phone, and it's a fix. And that's pretty much it. That's the InFocus Snap 4 for you in about less than 7 minutes. That's what I think about it. These are 5 things to know if you are looking to get this device. I really dig its hardware on the outside. I mean, it's one of the best looking phones in its category. Plus the performance and the software are also tick marks for me. And of all the issues in the Snap 4, I personally think most of them can be fixed with software updates, like the slow unlock transition when you tap that fingerprint sensor and wait for it to unlock, or the portrait mode in the cameras, which means that these issues are not permanent, which is great. I won't lie, I've had a smooth experience with this device, but I've got to admit that for the price it sells at, which is 12k, it would kind of be a hard sell for the company. But hey, if you're looking out to try a new brand, this could be it. But let me know what you think about this in the comment section below, and if you are interested in going ahead with this, I'll leave a link to this in the description, so feel free. Thanks for watching and stick around and take care.